Hi, I'm Buzz Ramsey, and we're here today to talk about how to make ground meat into jerky strips using a jerky gun, the Smokehouse Jerky Gun, with some drying screens and your favorite smokehouse, which might be a Little Chief or Big Chief smokehouse. And so now you can do this with ground meat. We've got ground hamburger here that works for this. Ground venison. You know, if you're a hunter, you can use ground venison that you maybe mix. I don't know, 10 to 15%, fat with, grind it, and just make it into your regular hamburger. And so we're just going to add a spice to it, and then we're going to put it in the gun and make jerky. So this ground meat, I'm just going to put it in a mixing bowl. Now I'm going to do about a package of the mix. We'll do about 10 to 15 pounds of meat. Now that depends on your taste. If you are, if you like a little spicier, a little more flavor, you can, use a little less meat with it. And you can also cut it into batches. Now here I want to do just enough so I can fill a Little Chief smokehouse. So I'm going to do about 3.5 pounds of ground meat. I'm going to do it in 2 batches, and it takes about the recommended recipe is about 1 tablespoon per pound of meat. Now we like it a little spicier, so we're going to pep it up a little bit, but you can do it however you want depending on your taste. So I'm going to do about, like I say, about a half batch. So I've got about 1 3/4 pounds of meat here, and so I'm going to add 3. Now I just took one of the packages and dumped it in a bowl, and I'm going to take 3 tablespoons, about 3.5 tablespoons of the mix, and just put it right on the meat. Now what I like to do for this is put a little bit on. I want to put 2 on there so far, so I'm going to get this worked in there a little bit. Gloves is a good deal for this, and mix it in there a little bit, roll it over. The big thing when you're mixing it is to get it evenly spread out through the meat. So we're going to do that by shaking it around. If you just dump it in there, it's going to be a lot harder to mix with the meat than if you spread it around. So I'll mix this up real good, and take me several minutes here. And then what I'm going to do is I like to let this bowl, once I mix this really well, I let this sit out for about 3-4 hours, just at room temperature, and that allows the spice to permeate the meat. And once that's done, I'm going to load it in the gun. We're going to show you that too, and we're going to put it on the drying screens. Okay, so we've let our meat sit for 3 or 4 hours, just out in room temperature is fine, and allow the spice to permeate the meat. And so now we're going to load it in our jerky gun and put it on the drying racks. Now there's 2 nozzles for this. You can make round jerky just like you buy in the store, or you can make flat strips. There's 2 different nozzles for this. So we're just going to load the meat in here. Now what I like to do is just put it in the tube, because you do get some air in there, and I like to load it in the tube before you hook it up to the gun. Okay, so then I'm going to take this plunger, and it's good if it's out just a little ways on there, and just fit it in there. It's pretty tight fitting, and then screw it right on to the gun. Okay, so then my meat's on this end, of course, and we're going to start off doing round, just like a regular pepperoni, making pepperoni with ground beef. So and then we just put the nozzle on real easy, and now it's ready to go. This is just like this is for food use, but it works just like a grease gun. Now I've taken my screens, my screens for a Little Chief. Remember, we're doing 3.5 pounds of meat, which is about right for a Little Chief. And now I've taken my drying screens and I've sprayed them down with a non-stick spray, so that the pepperoni won't stick to the screens. And now we're just going to apply it on there. You just line it up, and actually you can put these pretty close together, so you can get a lot in here. And we're just going to make round pepperoni. Pepperoni strips. So you're making beef jerky out of ground beef is all we're doing. And of course, like I mentioned, you can do it with venison too, ground venison. Just take that venison and grind it at about 10% beef fat. Beef or pork works. And you can do it with, you can make this out of your venison trim. What we do with a deer or elk or game like that, big game, is we'll grind it ourselves, and then we'll mix. Actually, we'll sometimes mix about a third pork shoulder. That'll just be pretty inexpensive and will allow you to extend the amount of meat you have. You know, add to it a lot, and then we'll add about 10% beef or pork fat to it. And then you got a whole lot of really good hamburger. If you make breakfast sausage out of it, it's still a lot leaner than the breakfast sausage you might buy, even with those ratios. Okay, so we ran one tube of meat through there. So I just took the end off, unscrewed it. There's a little bit of meat there right on the plunger, and I'm going to move that plunger back and back to the bottom. And I'm just going to undo it and fill it right up again. And on this next one, we're going to put a different head on it, and show you how to make the strip pepperoni. So now we're just going to put the other nozzle on, and this will give us flat strips. We filled the gun, holds about a pound, and line that up. And we're going to take this screen and we're going to set it right over the one with the round pepperoni style. We're going to put it right on our smoker rack here. It just goes right on. Your screen sits right on the rack in the smoker. And so now we're going to another screen, and we're going to do it again. You'd think that this would stick to the screens, but I'll tell you, these screens are real no stick, and if you add a little no stick stuff to it, they clean up real easy. You can lift this, when this pepperoni's done, as you'll see, it just lifts right off. No problem. And you can put these real close together. You just want a little gap so the smoke can get between the strips, and you're good. Okay, now we've loaded. We did one tray around and 3 of the strip jerky, and now this is something that most people don't do, but those that are veterans at this do. They'll add a little more of the seasoning to the jerky by just simply sprinkling some on. It'll permeate into the meat and give you an instant jerky flavor when you bite into this. So you just sprinkle a little bit on top of each strip, just a little. If you think this is going to give you too much spice, then what you do is you just back off on the amount of spice you initially mix with the jerky or with your meat, your ground meat, and then because you're adding a little more here. Now we like it a little spicy, so we pep it up a little, and then we just sprinkle a little bit on top. And you can do this to your round shapes too. Real easy, just a nice light little coating on here, and this will give you a real distinct jerky flavor. Okay, so we've got our screens loaded up and on the rack. Now we're using a Little Chief top load smoker, and I know there's people that like the top load, people that like the front load, but we like the top load because a lot of times when we prepare our meat or fish, we do it in the kitchen, and then we take the full rack down and load it in our smoker with one easy step rather than making multiple trips with different trays of meat. Okay, so we've got our ground meat jerky. It's on our drying screens. We've just slid them in on top of the grills on the smokehouse, and we're going to drop it into the smoker. Real easy. That's what we like about the top load. It's one easy step from your kitchen to your smoking location. And then we're going to add a pan of chips for our smoke flavor. And remember, you're using your smoker outside, right? On a non-combustible surface. Really important. Actually, there are I think 4 different flavors of chips. hickory, apple, cherry, alder, and mesquite. That's 5. They all have their own unique flavor. Some of them are real mild, like alder. Hickory has a distinct flavor and is probably the wood used most with jerky, and that's what we're going to use today. The chunks come with the Smokehouse chunks. These are the chunks, which are a little bigger. They smoke a little longer. The chips are more finely ground. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll use a few of the bigger chunks in the pan. You know, these are cut up into little chunks, and then we'll add some of the finer chips on top. You can fill it up pretty good. This pan of chips will smoke for about an hour or less, a little more of course with the chunks in there, and you just put that into the front of the smoker door, right on the heating element, and it won't take long, and those chips will start to combust, and it'll add the smoke flavor to your smoker. Now your jerky like this is going to take, you know, this Smokehouse will run, depending on outside temperature, it's going to run probably minimum 140 degrees up to maybe a little over 200 degrees, and which is the range for pasteurization. And this smoker, you know, with those temperatures, you're going to look at 2, 3, 4 hours of smoking time. Doesn't take a long time for this jerky. The idea of this is you want it to cook slowly or smoke slowly with that heat, to gradually take the moisture out of the meat. If you cook it in a real hot smokehouse of some sort, it's going to cook it real quick and it's not going to be as good. So drying it out and getting it just to the texture you like. So it's good to check on it about every 30 minutes or so and get the texture you like. You can press on it, kind of feel it, and go, oh, okay, that's the yummy flavor I like. Now the drier you make it, the longer it's going to last. I mean, you could turn this into shoe leather if you like. I don't like it that way. But if you do, it'll keep for a long time without refrigeration. But most people keep this in the refrigerator. They're trying to hide it from their kids and all their friends, and it goes pretty quick. So this will keep, you know, even with a fairly good moisture content and the real good flavor, it's going to keep in the refrigerator for a few weeks or more. So, and we usually store it in the refrigerator in a, you know, in a paper bag with maybe some paper towels in the bottom so it can breathe a little bit. That's a really good thing to do. So we're going to check on this in a few minutes, and should be done before we know it. Okay, our little chief is starting to smoke. So we've got our ground beef jerky going in here, and it'll take, well, given this temperature, probably 3-4 hours to get the right doneness and the right amount of smoke flavor that, you know, we like. But this is what the final product will look like. We've got our round shapes and our flat shaped jerky here, and this is just the right texture we like because we're doing it ourselves. We've got good quality meat here, and we've added just the right amount of flavor with our rub that we want, the right intensity with the right flavor that we really like. And you know, this doesn't last long around our house, and I'm sure it won't last long around yours either.